Attorneys for the Maryland man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador last month are calling on the federal government to bring him back to the United States. In a new filing, Kilmar Abrego Garcia's lawyers said, quote, the United States has never claimed that it is powerless to correct its error, and before today it did not contend that doing so would cause any harm. That's because the only one harmed by the current state of affairs is Abrego Garcia. Now, the filing is in response to the Supreme Court's decision Monday, which temporarily paused a midnight deadline for the 29-year-old to return to the U.S. to give the high court more time to consider the matter. The high court on Monday also ruled in a 5-4 decision that for now the Trump administration can use a wartime law known as the Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged gang members. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang asked Attorney General Pam Bondi Tuesday about a recent 60 Minutes report which found that 75% of the immigrants who were sent to El Salvador did not have a public criminal record.
Well, they're not Venezuelan migrants. They're illegal aliens from Venezuela who should not have been in our country, who are committing the most violent crimes. But we don't have to charge them with every crime. We can deport them and get them out of our country and save room in our prisons because they should have never been in our country to begin with.
For more, let's bring in CBS News Justice Department reporter Jake Rosen. Jake, I can't get your title right. You're with me every night.
It's all good, Lindsay.
Federal Judge James Boasberg canceled a Tuesday hearing on the Trump administration's use of this Alien Enemies Act. This is, of course, following the Supreme Court's Monday night decision. Last week, Boasberg said he had enough evidence to pursue contempt proceedings, or at least was mulling it against the Justice Department. He felt he wasn't getting enough information from the government on why they didn't turn around those flights after he ordered a stop to them. Where does all this stand now, including those contempt proceedings?
Well, the Department of Justice last night asked the Judge Boasberg to dismiss the case first off and dissolve these contempt proceedings that he has started, and went down the road of far enough last week to say that he felt the government likely disobeyed his order and was not acting in good faith after his order on March 15th to turn those two planes around. Boasberg canceled the hearing today and gave the plaintiffs, the ACLU, and other attorneys representing those alleged Tren de Aragua gang members, or at least Venezuelans who are seeking to block their deportation, another week to provide a reason to him why this case should continue. It's yet to be determined exactly what would happen with these contempt charges. It's certainly possible that Boasberg could issue a ruling, although the way to enforce it would basically be moot because Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Justice Department would be the ones enforcing any kind of civil or criminal contempt of court. Though I will leave it at this. At the end of the last hearing, Boasberg had prompted a Department of Justice attorney to give 4 names to him of people who were aware of this decision, and Boasberg pledged to get to the bottom of who in the White House directed the order for those planes to continue on their way.
Also on Tuesday, the Supreme Court paused a lower court order requiring the reinstatement of some probationary federal workers who had been hired within the last 2 years. How did the justices rule here?
Well, it was a decision, obviously, with the conservative-leaning Supreme Court. There were 2 liberal dissensions. About 16,000 people are affected by this kind of back and forth we've seen in this case across numerous government agencies. I believe it's in the teens, if not 24 or so. What the Supreme Court found in this case was that it was because it was brought by unions for these government employees, that the Supreme Court felt that there wasn't actually a strong enough argument from the unions as to why this case should be continued, and argued that if there were people in the government who actually had sued instead, there would have been a stronger case, basically saying that the unions didn't have standing to bring this case in the first place. Like we saw last night, in which it was kind of a venue issue, this is more of the plaintiff issue, that yes, they brought a case, yes, they did temporarily get this block, but it was not a strong enough argument to keep it permanent.
As we mentioned, the Supreme Court has temporarily paused the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the U.S., the 29-year-old father from Maryland, who's been living in the U.S. legally and was, at the time of deportation, married to a U.S. citizen. What happens next in his case?
We're just waiting on the Supreme Court to rule. After last night's indefinite pause, any further proceedings in this case will happen after the Supreme Court issues a decision. We saw court filings yesterday by both the Department of Justice and attorneys for Mr. Abrego Garcia. The government has continued to argue, like you pointed out a couple of minutes ago, that there's no way that they can compel El Salvador to produce him. However, an appeals court and a judge in Maryland both found that there is a way for the United States to do that, because technically this man is in the custody of the United States, just in a different country. With certainly more to come on that, and the Supreme Court could rule at any time from now into whenever they do rule.
Jake, a federal judge says the Associated Press can return to the White House for the time being. The news agency previously barred from covering events in the Oval Office and East Room of the White House for refusing to refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America in its style guide. What more can you tell us?
Well, that's exactly right. The Associated Press sued 3 members of the Trump administration, including Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. This judge, a Trump-appointed judge, Trevor McFadden, said in a pretty scathing memo that was about 41 pages that because the Trump administration was allowing everybody else in the White House press pool to attend these big events, think about that big scene with Volodymyr Zelensky or the Polish president coming to visit or any big executive order signing that the president has done, the White House and its photographers have been, or the Associated Press and its photographers have been cut out of covering these. They've also not been allowed to travel on Air Force One. The judge found that any restriction along those lines was viewpoint discrimination by the White House against the news organization.
Jake Rosen, thank you.